Right now, in your home, there's money sitting in things you already own, and you're quietly throwing it away. Not dramatically, in small decisions you make a dozen times a month. You replace what could have been fixed. You rebuy what you've already got. The average American family throws away hundreds of dollars of good, repairable stuff every year without noticing. In Japan, there's a word for the feeling that stops this: mottainai, a regret at letting something useful go to waste. It has nothing to do with being cheap. It's about respecting what you already paid for. Here are 11 habits draining your account. Stay till habit 6, the one almost nobody realizes they're doing, and maybe the priciest of all. Habit 1, and this one makes people groan when the number sinks in. Your appliance breaks, a washing machine, a dishwasher, a vacuum, and your first thought is, time to buy a new one. That instinct might be a $200 mistake. Surveys show most Americans now say they'd rather repair than replace, and mostly to save money, yet the old instinct still fires the moment something actually breaks. And a huge share of appliances that get hauled to the curb don't have a serious problem at all. They have a clogged filter, a worn seal, a stuck hinge, a $5 part that 10 minutes in a video could fix. The manufacturers are happy to let you believe the whole machine is dead, since a new one is far more profitable than a replacement gasket. In Japan, the instinct runs the other way. You find out what's actually wrong before you write off a machine that cost you hundreds. Before you replace any appliance, look up the exact symptom online. Half the time, the fix is a cheap part and a screwdriver. And here's the part that stings. The repair often takes less time than driving to the store, comparing models, and waiting for delivery. You could have been done in an afternoon for the price of a part. The cheapest appliance you will ever own is almost always the one already sitting in your kitchen right now. And the second habit is the reason you keep buying things you already own. Habit 2, and this one is almost funny until you add up what it costs. You need something: batteries, scissors, a phone charger, a specific spice, so you buy it. Then a week later, you find the two you had all along, shoved at the back of a drawer you forgot to check. Everybody does this. And a cluttered, disorganized home is basically a machine for making you rebuy things you already own, since if you can't find it, you don't have it as far as your wallet is concerned. Every duplicate charger, every third pair of scissors, every spice you bought twice, that's money spent on stuff sitting in the house. The Japanese approach to keeping a home in order is practical more than aesthetic. When everything has a place and you can see what you own, you stop paying twice for the same item. A tidy drawer is really just a way of never buying the third stapler. Before you buy a small household item, check whether you own one already first. You will be shocked how often you do. And it's worth the 10 seconds because these little duplicate purchases feel invisible one at a time. $5 here, $8 there, but stacked across a year they add up to real money, all of it spent on things that were already yours. And that leads straight to a mistake that feels frugal but is secretly the opposite. Habit 3, and this one flips what most people believe about saving money. You buy the cheap thing to save cash. Paper towels because they're convenient. Disposable razors because they're a few dollars. Bottled water by the case. It feels economical in the moment. Over a year, it's one of the most expensive ways to live, since you're buying the same thing over and over and over. A roll of cloths that lasts years replaces hundreds of dollars of paper towels. A good razor with replaceable blades pays for itself in months. A single refillable bottle replaces a small mountain of plastic ones and pays for itself in about a week. A cloth napkin used for years replaces box after box of paper ones. The pattern is always the same. The reusable thing costs a little more once, and the disposable thing costs a little less every week, forever. Which is the more expensive deal by far once you actually run the numbers? The Japanese habit of buying fewer, better, reusable items comes down to buying once instead of buying forever. Look at what you find yourself repurchasing constantly, the stuff on your shopping list almost every single time, and ask if a durable version would be cheaper over a year. It almost always is. The trick the disposable economy plays is that each purchase is small enough to feel painless, so you never add up the 12 months of small purchases into the one big number they really are. Now, before the next habit, let me quickly tell you where all of this thinking comes from. I put the whole philosophy behind these habits into a book called the Naoshi Method. It's built on this one idea: keeping and caring for what you already own instead of endlessly replacing it, applied across your whole home, from your clothes to your kitchen to your furniture. Scan the code on screen or tap the link in the description if that's something you want. Now, back to the habits, because this next one is the silent killer of expensive machines. Habit 4. This is the one that silently kills the most expensive things you own, long before their time. You buy a good appliance, and then you never maintain it. The dishwasher filter never gets cleaned. The washing machine never gets descaled. The refrigerator coils never get dusted. The dryer vent fills with lint. None of it seems urgent until the machine dies years early and you're standing in a showroom spending $1,000 you didn't need to spend. Almost every major appliance lasts dramatically longer with a little routine care, and almost nobody gives it, since nothing about a slightly dirty filter feels urgent today. The cost is invisible right up until the machine dies, and by then it looks like bad luck rather than years of small neglect. This is pure mottainai territory, a machine thrown away not because it failed, but because it was neglected. Spend 20 minutes a season on the machines that run your household. Clean the filters, clear the vents, wipe the seals. It's the cheapest insurance you'll ever buy. A dishwasher filter rinsed every few weeks, a dryer vent cleared once a year, a fridge coil dusted now and then. These take minutes and can add years to a machine's life. The manufacturers count on you skipping all of it, and a machine that dies at 7 years instead of 15 means you buy 2 in the time you should have bought 1. And speaking of things worn out by neglect, the next one is probably hanging in your closet. Habit 5. Your clothes wear out faster than they should, and then you replace them and you blame the quality. Sometimes it really is cheap fabric, but a lot of the time, the clothes died because of how they were treated. Washed too hot, dried too hard, hung wrong, stored badly. Every garment that wears out before its time is money you spend again at the store, replacing something you already owned. The Japanese instinct is to treat good clothes as things worth keeping for years, even decades, which means washing gently, drying with care, and storing them so moths and damp don't finish them off. Learn how to actually care for the fabrics you own, and your clothing budget can drop by half without buying anything cheaper. A sweater folded instead of hung keeps its shape for years. A shirt washed in cold water instead of hot holds its color far longer. None of it is hard, and all of it is money. Because the goal was never to keep buying clothes. It was to stop needing to. And now, habit 6, the one I promised, the one almost nobody sees. Habit 6. This is the one that gets almost everyone, and you won't even feel it happening. It's called perceived obsolescence, and it's the quiet art of making you replace something that works perfectly well, simply because it feels old. The phone still works, but there's a new one. The couch is fine, but it's not the current style. The kitchen is functional, but everyone's redoing theirs. Nothing is broken, nothing needs replacing, but an entire industry is built on making you feel like it does, and it is astonishingly good at its job. It's the difference between something wearing out and something going out of fashion, and companies have spent a century blurring that line on purpose, since a customer who replaces things on schedule is worth far more than one who keeps them until they break. This is the single most expensive habit on this list. Forget the $5 part or the roll of paper towels. Now we're talking about replacing $1,000 things that had years of life left. The Japanese idea of valuing what you already have, of finding contentment in the sufficient, is the direct antidote. The next time you feel the itch to replace something that still works, pause and ask whether it's actually worn out or just no longer new. That single question, worn out or just not new, can save you thousands. It's worth noticing how much of the pressure comes from outside you, from ads, from feeds full of other people's new things, from a culture that treats last year's model as embarrassing. Almost none of it comes from the object itself, which is sitting there working exactly as well as the day you bought it. And the pull is strongest on the small stuff we've stopped even trying to fix. Habit 7. A button pops off a shirt, and the shirt goes in the donate pile. A chair gets a little wobbly, so it goes to the curb. A small tear, a loose screw, a squeaky hinge, and the whole thing gets written off. We've lost the reflex our grandparents had, where a 5-minute fix was obvious instead of unthinkable. Almost none of these small failures actually mean the end of the object. A button is 2 minutes with a needle and thread. A wobbly chair is usually 1 turn of a screwdriver under the seat. A squeaky hinge is a single drop of oil. None of these are skills, really. They're just things nobody showed us. It was just easier to sell us a new one. The Japanese tradition treats a small repair as part of owning something, not a burden. And there's even an art, kintsugi, built entirely on the beauty of the mended object. Keep a basic repair kit and learn 3 or 4 simple fixes. You'll rescue dozens of things headed for the trash. And there's a quiet satisfaction in it that surprises people. The small pride of having fixed a thing with your own hands, instead of swiping a card for a new one. Our grandparents knew that feeling well. Most of us have simply forgotten it's available. That was small repairs. The next one is about things with an edge. Habit 8. Your knives are dull. Your scissors don't cut. The lawnmower blade is blunt. And so you struggle, or worse, you replace them. Almost nobody thinks to sharpen anymore. But a dull blade isn't dead. It just needs 5 minutes of attention. A good kitchen knife can last a lifetime, sharpened now and then. Yet people throw out perfectly good knives because they've gone dull and assume they're finished. The Japanese reverence for a well-kept blade is legendary, and it comes down to maintenance, not replacement. A cheap sharpener brings knives, scissors, and garden tools back to life for years. Learn to sharpen, and you stop buying replacements for tools that were never actually broken. Think about how strange it is, when you say it out loud, throwing away a good steel knife because it stopped cutting, when making it cut again takes 5 minutes and a cheap stone. We'd never do that with a car that ran low on fuel. A dull blade is just a blade that's run low, and refilling it costs almost nothing. And the same logic applies to the most wasteful room in the house. Habit 9. The kitchen, and specifically the food you already bought and then throw straight in the bin. The wilted greens, the leftovers nobody ate, the yogurt 1 day past a date that doesn't really mean what you think, the bread gone stale. Food waste is money you already spent, walking out to the trash can. The Japanese habit of using things fully turns this around. Wilting vegetables becomes soup. Cold rice becomes fried rice. Stale bread becomes croutons. The last scrape of the yogurt becomes a marinade. Nothing edible is treated as beneath saving. A simple use me first bin in the fridge and a habit of cooking what you have before buying more cuts a grocery bill painlessly. It's the easiest money on this whole list. You already paid for it. All you really have to do is not throw it away in the first place. The average household bins a startling share of the food it buys, which means a real slice of every grocery trip goes straight into the trash uneaten. Shopping your own fridge before you shop the store is the single fastest way to feel this one in your wallet. The next one is about paying that same money over and over. Habit 10. You buy the cheapest version of something, it breaks, you buy another, it breaks, and you never stop to notice you've now paid for the same thing 4 times. The cheap boots that fall apart every winter, so you buy new ones each fall. The bargain umbrella that dies in one storm. The $5 kitchen gadget you replace every single year without ever noticing the pattern. Buying cheap feels frugal, but for things you use hard and often, it's the most expensive path there is. The Japanese principle is to buy quality once and keep it a long time, spending more up front to spend far less over the years. This has nothing to do with luxury, it's just math. For the things you use every day, one good version outlasts a decade of cheap ones. The catch is that it takes a little patience and a little more money up front, which is exactly why the cheap version keeps winning at the checkout even though it loses over time. Figure out which of your constant rebuys is worth upgrading once, and you stop the slow bleed for good. And the last habit is about seeing value where everyone else sees trash. Habit 11. This is the one that ties the whole philosophy together, and it costs you every time you miss it. You throw out objects that still had a second life in them. The glass jars that could have been storage. The old t-shirts that could have been cleaning rags. The container the takeout came in. The box, the packaging, the thing that was still perfectly useful in another form. In Japan, reusing and repurposing is second nature, partly because things are often designed with a second life in mind, and partly because throwing out something still useful genuinely feels wrong. Every jar you reuse is a container you don't buy. Every old shirt turned to rags is a pack of cloths you skip. Before you throw anything out, take 1 second to ask whether it has another job left in it. Surprisingly often, it does. You don't have to turn your home into a craft project or save every scrap. That's its own kind of clutter. It's just a small pause before the bin. A quick check for the obvious second life. The jar that becomes storage. The shirt that becomes a rag. Small, but it adds up like all the rest. So step back and look at all 11 together, and you'll see they're really one idea wearing 11 different outfits. Don't replace what you can repair. Don't rebuy what you already own. Don't bin what still has life left. Maintain the expensive things. Value what still works. It's all the same principle. The money you already spent is worth protecting. We're trained, constantly, relentlessly, to solve every problem by buying something new. Mottainai is the refusal to do that. The sense that what you already have is worth keeping, caring for, and using all the way to the end. It isn't about deprivation, and it isn't about spending your weekends fixing things you hate. It's a shift in the default. The default most of us run on is replace, and the mottainai default is keep. That one change, applied quietly across 100 small decisions a year, is worth more than almost any raise. People who live this way don't feel poorer, they feel lighter, and their bank accounts feel it too. Because in the end, the richest thing you can do isn't buying more, it's needing less, because you take care of what you already have. That's the whole difference between a household that constantly spends and one that simply keeps. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If keeping what you own instead of constantly replacing it is your kind of thing, that's exactly what this channel is here for, so you'll know where to find the next one.